About 10 kilometers south of Paradise, Nova Scotia, lay a ghost of a town known as Roxbury. There's not much left of that town but ruins, a few deep wells, and a graveyard that is nearly hidden in the underbrush. Countless souls have passed through this area over the centuries. In the days before the settlers even arrived in Nova Scotia, the Mi'kmaq who lived there prized the area for its good hunting and its fine fishing.
The Mi'kmaq are a First Nations people, indigenous to the areas of Canada's Atlantic provinces, Quebec, and the northeastern region of Maine.
The Acadians arrived in the 1750s, fleeing the oppression of the expulsion.
The Acadians were immigrants from France that settled in what is known today as Canada's Maritime provinces. In 1755, the British military forcefully deported nearly 16,000 of them from the region. Some were lucky enough to escape and fled to other parts of the territory.
They became good friends with the Mi'kmaq, who did what they could to keep their Acadian allies alive during the long, cold winters. When the Acadians left, there were rumors of a hoard of gold being left behind, but no trace of it has yet been discovered. Then, in 1820, the Loyalists moved in and built the town up before eventually leaving for easier living. The last house that stood in Roxbury crumbled to the ground in the late 1980s. Now, let's turn your attention on over to a man who has spent many years of his life studying and writing as well as maintaining the ghost town of Roxbury. Retired school teacher, full-time scholar, and historian. I give you David Whitman.
Hi, I'm Dave Whitman. I live here in Paradise and was always interested in a small settlement south of here called Roxbury. I used to go there as a kid on a bicycle or go fishing, and was always interested in the stone walls and the foundations. And there was an old abandoned house, and of course that was very attractive to young teenagers to go in and explore. But then went to university in Acadia and Wolfville, and sort of lost touch with the home base and interesting things. But when I was teaching in the city, I guess I needed a taste of home, so I started doing some research into this abandoned place that seemed to be no one knew anything about. And when I come home weekends, I would search out people that I knew that were elderly that might know something about it, and all of a sudden information started to come in. Of course, it took me 10, 12 years to gather enough information to get it on paper, and then when I did, I would go around and talk to different groups, and finally my wife said, well, you should write a book. So I did. And it turned out to be a book called Lost in the Woods, The Lure and History of Roxbury. And it included stories that I got from elderly people that had contacts there, relatives who had contacts there, church records, school records, but most of all it was word of mouth. And over the years, more information came in, so I had to write a second book. And that second book was called Roxbury, Return to a Ghost Town. Someone asked me once, what's the one piece of information that you would love to have come across? And I said, I'd love to come across a diary. So then my wife said, well, why don't you make up a diary? So I did. I ended the first book with a diary from, I think, Michael Hines. And I just sort of made it up as though he were talking from all the information I had, what it would be like to live in Roxbury in 1878.
January 16. Very cold. Had to shovel away to the barn to feed cattle and oxen. January 20. Margaret up most of the night with Sarah and Richard. Put on a mustard poultice. Seemed to help. January 21. Kids much better. Young Michael and Roland helped their mother around the house. Elizabeth helped a bit, but is still too young to do much. January 26th. Took the oxen to the woods. Spent yesterday going in and out the Roxbury road, packing down the snow. I liked it better when they called this place Derlin's Settlement. Don't know who changed it.
Roxbury is so far away. I mean, it takes, to walk back would take you a couple hours. It's about 8 kilometers back. And a lot of times when people hike there, they're so tired when they get there, they don't really have time to go to both graveyards and to explore. So the best way to go there is to have some sort of vehicle. And when you get back there, take time to appreciate and look at the stone walls, remains of the old cellars, and the 2 graveyards. The inspiration tree was so named that if you got this far, you were inspired to go the rest of the way. But the wind blew part of it down. It's a great trail for skidoos, for side-by-sides and hikers and whatnot. There's a mailbox back there with a guest book, and people sign in, sign out. You can left sign it too. See, this house, there used to be a house right there. Because I can remember bringing high school or kids back here and going through the house. Story has it that Michael Hines was coming out here on a horse and wagon, and the horse bolted and he fell off and broke his neck and died. There's a sign there somewhere.
Break neck hill.
Most people go to explore, and some people go just to go to the graveyards. And as the more time they spend in the graveyards, I think the more I have a feeling they get maybe connected to the past, or they get connected to the abnormal, the paranormal, or the supernatural. I know that one lady went back and took pictures of a tombstone, and when she got home, the picture was sort of blurry, but there was a image of a lady in a white dress, and she ran with that. And I put that picture in a book, but you know, you have to really look closely to that to recognize anything. But for the person that is right into that stuff, the imagination can run wild. And I know that in this particular cemetery, the bigger cemetery, there are two of them, that you go back there on a windy day, there are all sorts of noises, and I've heard them. And as I leave that graveyard, I'm always looking over my shoulder behind me. But it's only certain times of the year, certain times of the day. But, you know, it would take a very brave person to go back there at night and to go in around those graveyards. So this is the Gormley Durland Cemetery, with other people here, of course. And a lot of people those days buried their family on their own property, sometimes with no markers, especially with children. Because typhoid fever went through here back in the mid-1800s and you know, killed off a lot of young people, and mainly due because poor water quality.
Yeah.
Because they all drank out of wells. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
This lady died in childbirth, and her husband used to come here and kneel down and cry and wail on him. And that's when people said, well, they could, years later, could hear him back here. And now it's not very solid. That's 27 years old.
It looks like there's the baby one beside it.
Yeah, well, yeah, baby. Doesn't look like much. You wouldn't believe there are over 17 known graves there, and probably more that are not marked.
Yeah.
People have expressed that when they're back there, they're sometimes look over their shoulder, especially when they're in the graveyards, and a lot of people have second thoughts about going back there alone. I don't think anyone goes back alone. If they do, they're on a four-wheeler or a cycle and continue right through.
Coming up, the team heads to Roxbury in search of spirits at the old ghost town.
The sun's going down in rural Nova Scotia, and we're about a 5 to 6 kilometer trek outside of the abandoned location known as Roxbury. We're waiting on one of our guides to finish getting ready, and he's going to take us on in this little trail behind me, and we're going to go see what we can find tonight. We're at the first location on our trek through the trails on our way to Roxbury. This is a location known as Breakneck Hill. You would think that based on the location that it's somewhere that, you know, it's off the path, but it's actually a part of the path itself. The story states that a gentleman was on a horse and something spooked the horse, it bucked, he fell off, broke his neck and died. Now, there's not generally any stories having to do with the paranormal around this location, but there has been a death here. So the fact that somebody died here, you never know if there is actually something still here or someone still here with us.
EMF detectors locate sources of electromagnetic radiation. Since ghosts are thought to emit electromagnetic radiation or disturb existing magnetic fields, these devices can be used to potentially detect them.
Is there anybody here with us? By any chance, is the spirit of the person who died here with us? It is so calm out here tonight. It is an absolute quiet time out right now. And that on itself is sometimes eerier than what you might expect to find. Is there anybody here with us? I just get the feeling that if somebody died here, as the story says, then their spirit's long gone from this place. They're passed on. When we got to Breakneck Hill, pulled out the tools, checked to see if anybody was around, wanted to talk. It was just deafening silence. There was nothing more to it. So like I said, we paid our respect and we moved on. When we actually got to the town limits, the settlement limits of Roxbury, there's right in the mailbox that's there, we signed the guest book just to say that we made the trek up here. You got to do that kind of a thing. All right, we signed. Cast and crew of Maritime Haunting. Now we're going to head up to the actual cemetery itself. The main reason why we're here. So we got there and we parked, and it was about, if I remember correctly, 270 meters off of the main path. So we took a nice little moonlit walk down, and it was a bright, clear night, stars in the sky, but you could barely see them through the canopy of the trees. We get into the cemetery. Once again, I didn't know anything coming into this about the location. I never really read the names. I never knew of anything that had happened in the settlement or any of the stories of the people that would be buried in the cemetery.
The spirit box uses radio frequency sweeps to generate white noise. This gives some entities the energy they need to communicate. Interaction occurs as voices or sounds coming through the static.
Is there anyone here with us? Tell us your name. My battery's like dying quickly. Within the last couple of minutes, I've drained over half the battery. And it's not that cold out. If there's anybody here with us, please come forward. Tell us your name. That actually kind of sounded like Samuel. Is your name Samuel? My camera just died fully. Keep talking with us. Are we talking with a Samuel? Don't be afraid. We really just want to communicate. Is that you, Samuel? Do you prefer Sam? Might have gotten shy by now. We had some interesting times with the EMF. It went off. The spirit box something seemed to chirp in the spirit box, and it sounded like it said Samuel was the name. Now, I could be wrong. We'll go back over the footage and we'll figure that out. But when I talked to Samuel, as it was, there was positive reaction and positive response. So, you know, we had some interesting feedback from the EMF. Well, we're not going to bother you for much longer at all. We appreciate your time. We're just happy to connect. Walking around in the cemetery felt just calming. There had been life in the area. That time has passed. Nature has reclaimed the settlement as it is, and it's almost like everything has just kind of gone back to the earth. There's no more story to tell, but hopefully this is the kind of thing that just keeps being read about, keeps being talked about. The stories of the people who lived here, the reasons why they lived here, the people who came and went, the people who lived and died. Everything about this place, you know, really does speak to true Nova Scotia history from that time.
I was pleased with the fact that people appreciate, you know, Roxbury and its natural, historical, and they appreciate the signage we've put up, and hopefully people will continue to go back there and be inquisitive, and just the overall appreciation that people have for a place that one time was a thriving settlement of 15 families.